Welcome to today's Tea Time audio story. It's time to slow down, take a deep breath, and enjoy a moment just for you. As you sip your favorite tea, let your mind drift into the world of stories, where imagination comes alive and anything is possible. Listening to audio stories isn't just entertaining, it's also a wonderful way to relax, spark creativity, and improve your English in a natural and enjoyable way. Stories have the power to transport us to far-off places, introduce us to new characters, and remind us of life's little lessons. So whether you're here to unwind, learn something new, or simply enjoy a quiet escape, this is your time. Get comfortable, let your worries melt away, and allow today's story to take you on a journey. Let the magic begin. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of autumn through the winding streets of Montmartre. The trees that lined the cobblestone roads had begun their slow transformation, their leaves a mixture of deep amber and golden hues, falling lazily with each passing breeze. Paris, in this season, was breathtaking, an artist's dream, a poet's muse. But for Elise, it was just another morning at Le Petit Délice. She moved around the bakery with practiced ease, setting fresh croissants in the display, adjusting the arrangement of tarts, and wiping down the wooden counters. It was a quiet morning, the kind she usually cherished. Yet, today, something felt different. Or rather, she felt different. She had always been comfortable in her routine, in the comforting predictability of her days. But ever since Adrien Laurent had started showing up in her world, that predictability had begun to fray at the edges. It was as if he had stepped into her life, uninvited, yet somehow made himself at home. And she wasn't sure how she felt about that. The familiar chime of the doorbell rang, pulling her from her thoughts. She didn't have to look up to know who it was. "You're late," she said, a teasing lilt in her voice as she placed a steaming cup of coffee on the counter without even needing to ask. Adrien smirked, adjusting the cuffs of his sleeves as he stepped inside. "Had an early meeting. Consider yourself lucky I made it at all." Elise arched an eyebrow. "Oh, how generous of you, Monsieur Laurent." He chuckled, reaching for the coffee she had set out for him. It had become an unspoken ritual between them, this morning exchange of sarcasm, warmth hidden beneath the teasing. It was strange how natural it had become. "I needed this," Adrien admitted after his first sip. "Long night. More corporate nightmares," she guessed, leaning against the counter. He sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Something like that. Endless negotiations, people talking in circles. It's exhausting." She studied him, noticing the slight crease in his forehead, the way his shoulders tensed even as he tried to appear composed. He carried the weight of his world well, but now that she knew him a little better, she could see the cracks beneath the surface. And for reasons she didn't want to analyze too closely, that realization made something twist in her chest. "Come here," she said suddenly, nodding toward the back of the bakery. Adrien frowned. "Why?" "Because you need a distraction," she said simply. "And I need help." He gave her a wary look but followed her into the kitchen anyway. Elise handed him a rolling pin. "You're on dough duty." He stared at it like she had handed him a foreign object. "I feel like this is punishment for something." She grinned. "It might be." Despite his grumbling, he rolled up his sleeves and did as instructed. It had started as an occasional amusement, a break from his usual world of suits and numbers, but now, it was becoming something more. He still fumbled with the dough, still complained when his croissants came out uneven, but he kept coming back. and Elise found herself looking forward to it more than she cared to admit. Sometime later, as they stood side by side at the work table, Adrian's hands dusted with flour, she glanced at him and said, "Why do you keep coming here?" He looked at her, something flickering in his gaze. "What do you mean?" "You don't need to," she said, voice quieter now. "You have your world. Your offices, your investors, your meetings. But you come here. Every morning." He hesitated, then placed the rolling pin down. "Maybe I like it here." She swallowed. "The bakery." He held her gaze. "You." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the oven, the faint melody of a French love song playing from the radio, it all faded into the background. Elise felt her breath hitch, her hands gripping the edge of the counter to keep herself grounded. She had been so careful, so determined not to let herself entertain thoughts like this. Adrian was not a man who belonged in her world, not really. But he was here. And the way he was looking at her now made her question everything. "You," she started, but before she could form a coherent thought, the oven timer beeped loudly, breaking whatever spell had settled over them. Adrian exhaled sharply, stepping back as if remembering where he was. Elise turned, hurriedly pulling the tray from the oven, focusing on anything but the way her heart was hammering against her ribs. Neither of them spoke for the next few minutes. Not about what had just happened, not about what it meant. But the cracks were there now. And there was no going back. Thank you for joining today's Tea Time story. We hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of imagination and storytelling. Whether it made you smile, sparked a new thought, or simply gave you a moment to relax, we're grateful to have shared this time with you. Thank you for listening and being part of our story time. Keep dreaming, keep imagining, and we'll see you again for another magical tale soon. Until next time, take care and happy listening. Thank you for joining today's Tea Time story. We hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of imagination and storytelling. Whether it made you smile, sparked a new thought, or simply gave you a moment to relax, we're grateful to have shared this time with you. Thank you for listening and being part of our story time. Keep dreaming, keep imagining, and we'll see you again for another magical tale soon. Until next time, take care and happy listening.